you are on.
Okay.
Nobody else, nobody yet. So I'll let you know. And there need to see if we get some people signing on here. I'm sure they're waiting anxiously to see. And they say, "Oh, he's on, he's on. Turn the TV down."
Right. That's what they do.
Yeah. Turn off Jeopardy. Jay's on.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. And while we're getting started, I'm sure people will start to come on. Before we get started in the Bible lesson, I want to go to the Lord in prayer. I want us to pray for Dan and Faye. Faye went into surgery, and she's doing great. From what I understand, they're doing fine. Let's see, I think Monday she went back to get a checkup, and I haven't heard anything from that. I haven't heard anything else. But let's continue praying for them, and again praying for our nation, our leaders, and the people here around us, the community, the leaders here in the community, and the leaders here at our church. So I'm glad that you're with us tonight. I'm excited. I missed you guys. It's like I said, I love teaching God's Word, and so when I'm not doing it, I get kind of antsy, and so I even had to go and on my vacation and look and see Doug over there teaching. And then Sunday I went on and saw Caleb teaching Sunday. So that's good. I get, like I said, I get antsy, and because I like preaching God's Word. I love it, and I can't get enough of it. And so, having said that, I'm glad we're back, and we're going to start in John 14. We finished John 13. I'll kind of recap what we did, and then we'll go into John 14. But let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father in heaven, we come to you because you are our God and our Father, and you are in control of all things. It is your will that will be done here on earth as it is in heaven. Lord, you are gracious and mighty. You are mighty to save. You love your people. You are compassionate to us, and you have poured out your grace and mercy upon us through your Son, Jesus Christ, whom you sent to die for us, to give us life, so that we can have reconciliation with you. And so, Father, I thank you that you are that kind. You love. And you loved us so much that you sent your Son to die for us. And so I thank you. Lord, we lift up our nation to you tonight. We ask, Lord God, that you continue to move us where you want us to go and how you want us to be. Lord, we will continue to pray for our nation. We will continue to pray for wisdom. We will continue to ask that you bless our nation, that you heal our nation. Father, I pray that you will continue to heal people here in the United States and around the world with COVID. Pray that you will move and that people will continue to see your glory and your majesty and manifest yourself through your people, God. Glorify yourself through your people. Continue to heal and continue your people to go out and proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ. I know that there is a great awakening that's happening, that people are coming to Jesus, and that is a great thing to watch, that people are getting saved. You're not through with this world, and I thank you for that. Lord, I ask that you continue to move throughout this world, that you send us out into our communities, into our nations, into our countries, that we will go out and proclaim the great news of Jesus Christ. and how he has died and how he has risen from the grave to give life to those who believe. And so, Father, let us be a people that go out and proclaim that tell others, that teach others, baptizing others. And so, Father, I thank you. Lord, we lift up, we lift up Dan and Faye, and I pray that you will continue to move in their lives, that you will continue to show your mercy and your grace upon them. I thank you for them. I thank you for the encouragement that they have given me and what they've done in my life and how they've loved me. So, Father, I thank you for them, and I ask for Faith's healing, and that she will heal quickly. And so, Father, again, we love you. We worship you tonight through word, and we pray that you will give us wisdom through it. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, let's stick that in there. All right, so we have started John 14. Today's the day. It is pretty amazing at how fast we've gone through. Well, we haven't really. It's been a long time. I mean, it's been over a year and 2 to 3 months now since we've been going through John. It's pretty amazing. We've gotten through John 14. There's a lot in here, but the one thing that I want us to go back to and always go back to is why this book was written. Why it was written. And we go back to John 20, and it says, therefore, in verse 30, therefore many other signs Jesus also performed in the presence of the disciples, which are not written in this book. But these have been written so that, here's the purpose, you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name. Okay? And so this is the reason why John has written this book. He has written it for us to read it and to understand that these are testimonies. This is truth. This is an eyewitness of Christ and what he did. It doesn't tell you all the stuff that he did, all the miracles. It doesn't tell you all that. It takes little parts for the purpose of showing you the greatness of Jesus Christ and the works of Jesus Christ and the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, so that seeing these things and seeing the works that Christ said, I am. He said, throughout all of John, you see that Christ is proclaiming that he is God. We see the works that come with that he's the Word of God. And with the Word comes works. I think about if anybody came up and said they were Jesus Christ today, but then had no works, of course, I wouldn't believe him. And it's the same as it is back then. If somebody came around and said that they were the Messiah and there were no works to be seen, he was discredited. But here we have Jesus Christ, who claims to be the Messiah, who's claimed to be God, and he has brought works with him, as far as God has moved through him to bring these great works, raising people from the dead, healing people from blindness, healing paralytics, a number of things, feeding 5,000 or more people, 20,000 with women and children. I mean, you think about all the stuff that Christ did. And so what we see here is that there are works that come with it. His ministry is through. He is now gathered with his disciples. It's a very beautiful, very touching, very loving thing that's taking place here. He has washed their feet, and then he tells them that there is someone who is going to betray him, and that betrayal will come from Judas. They don't know this, but they're all just discouraged. And then he tells them that he's going away, and that they are not going to be able to follow him. We see here that he says to Peter, Peter says to him, Lord, where are you going? Where are you going, Lord? And Jesus answered, where I go, you cannot follow me now, but you will follow me later. And Peter said to him, Lord, why can't I follow you now, right now? I will lay down my life for you. And Jesus answered, will you lay down your life for me, Peter? Truly, truly, I say to you, a rooster will not crow until you deny me 3 times. And that is discouraging. I mean, Christ is laying out a prophecy here to Peter. And he's saying, do you really love me, Peter? You're going to deny me 3 times. I mean, so you think about it. Think about this night that the disciples are experiencing. You know, Jesus Christ washing their feet. The Messiah, who they believe is the Messiah, is washing the feet of the disciples. And then he's telling them that he's going to go away. And he's told them that he's going to die. That he's going to be betrayed. I mean, you think about it. Think about it. They've been with Jesus for 3 years. 3 years. And here they are. And Jesus is telling them this what they think is bad news. This is horrible. We get to this point, and now you're going to be betrayed, and you're going to go somewhere where we can't follow you, and just think about that. Just think about that. It was a very sad night for them. And then it goes into verse 14, right after he says that to Peter, and I'm sure he's still talking to Peter. The chapters and the verses were put in there many years later to help us read and to break these things down. But this is a continual. So when Jesus is saying to him, a rooster will not crow until you deny me 3 times, I can just imagine what Peter's face looked like. You know, the discouragement. And here's what Jesus says to him. Do not let your heart be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. Now, here we see that Christ is telling his disciples, he's telling Peter, he's telling all of his disciples here, don't let your hearts be troubled. And it's basically an imperative. He says, and then the imperative here is believe in God. And then he says, which I think is an imperative too, is you believe in me also. And what he's saying is that you believe in God. Well, I am. He's told them this. I am. Ego eimi. This this word that this name that Jesus has proclaimed. He is the great I am. He's told it to the Pharisees, and they wanted to kill him. And now he's saying, look, you believe in God. I want you to believe me also. Okay? Because Jesus is God. He is God. I mean, think about it. Think about this term. Why would, if Jesus was not God, why would he say, believe in me? And why would he put himself up there with God? You believe God? Well, believe me also. Okay? And so we see over and over again that Jesus constantly says that he is God, that he is the image, the radiance of God the Father. No one has seen God the Father. No one. And the only way that we see God the Father is through the radiance of Jesus Christ. How do we know there's a sun out there burning in the sky? Because we see the radiance of it. If we didn't see the radiance of it, we wouldn't even know it's out there. We didn't see the glow and the heat and of it. We wouldn't even know it was there. Wouldn't see it. But Jesus Christ is the radiance of his glory. Okay? And so when he says believe in God, he's also saying believe in him. Now remember, he said, I and the Father are one. And he's also said to the Pharisees that if you believe me, you believe the Father. And if you believe the Father, then you believe in me. If you do not believe in me, if you do not trust me, then you do not trust the Father. It's a package deal here, okay? You can't just love God and hate Jesus, because Jesus is God. You can't just, hey, I really love Jesus. That Jesus is great. I love his teachings and what he's done. But God, he's a little angry. I don't really like him. And that's just not the way it is. They're one and the same. In fact, they're Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, 3 in 1. And so we hold to that. We see that. It's throughout the whole of the Bible. And so what we see here is that he's saying to them, believe me. He's not going to tell them lies. Believe what he's telling them. Believe what I'm telling you. Okay? I'm telling you, I'm getting ready to lay down a few things that are going to blow your mind, but I want you to believe it. I want you to trust it, because I am truth. That's what he's saying here. Verse 2, in my Father's house are many dwelling places. If it were not so, I would have told you. For I go to prepare a place for you. Now, this is a wonderful thing. I love this verse. I remembered it when I was a little kid, and when I would go to vacation Bible school or whatever, and then growing up, and I got saved when I was 33, and this is one of the verses. This whole verses 1 through 6, I remembered. It just kind of popped right into my head. And it's something that I remembered when I was a little kid. And I thank God for that. And I believe with all my heart that the Holy Spirit has revealed that to me and kept that in me and is using that in me today. And he says, in my Father's house. In my Father's house. Now, what is it that you think of when it comes to your father, the Father's house, right? What is it that you think heaven, right? You think that there's that the Father's house is heaven, right? A lot of people think that. Well, let's think about what Jesus did when he came in to Jerusalem, and he threw out the money changers, and he says what? He says, this is my Father's house of prayer, but you have turned it into a den of thieves. Okay? So, this is his Father's house, right? The temple was his Father's house. Now, the temple itself was not the house of God, as far as God didn't just dwell there and he needed somebody to build him a house, so he built this, the temple had the Solomon build this temple, and then he's dwelling in the temple, and that's where he lives. And God is everywhere. Okay, God is everywhere. So, but what he's saying here is it's a picture. The temple, again, and this is what we've been studying in Hebrews, and if you want to join us on Sundays, the correlation here between the two books is amazing. And what we're studying now is what we're studying in Hebrews, what we're studying in John. It really is truly amazing how it just kind of all fits together. But what you're seeing here is that the temple was a picture. The tabernacle, the sanctuary, was a picture of something greater, of something that we would think of as not made with hands, is what Hebrews says. A place not made with hands. It was a picture of something greater. The temple that they had here was made with human hands, but the true temple, the one that where God actually resides, is in heaven, where there is man is not making God's temple. It's not made with hands. So what he's saying here, my Father's house. My Father's house are many dwelling places. Now, when I was a kid, I remember learning the verse, in my Father's house are many mansions. Right? Many mansions. And I was talking to my wife just recently, and she made a good point, because we were discussing this verse here, and she made a really good point. She said when she was a kid, she looked at that as being horrible, because she thought to herself, why would I want a mansion? And because she kept thinking, mansions are huge, right? Mansions are huge, and this is what we have in mind. I mean, seriously, I've talked to people, and this is what people have in mind, that God has a house for them, a huge house, and that we're going to be living in these huge houses, these mansions. But that's just not the case. It's kind of what we've taken. The Greek word actually means abiding or dwelling places. So it's an abiding. And so when you read it, you would say, in my Father's house are many dwelling places. And I think the NASB has it correctly. I think, or abiding places. And so what you see here is there's a lot of room. Okay? There's a lot of room where God is. Okay? Now, he says, in my Father's house are many dwelling places. And I got to thinking about that. And like, so what does that actually mean? And my wife and I were discussing this. And the one thing that I realized is that we're not talking about a place. I don't think we're talking about a place, actually. And I want you to see this. Hebrews chapter 3 and verse 2. We've actually gone over this. But it says, we're talking about Christ being a greater high priest. And he says that he was faithful to him who appointed him. So Christ was faithful to God, who appointed him and sent him to earth to do this job that he had to do, he had to complete. And so he was faithful to him who appointed him, just as Moses was also in all of his house. So Moses was faithful. Moses was a servant, a faithful servant in the house of God. Okay? He says, for he has been counted worthy of more glory than Moses. This is Jesus Christ. He's been counted worthy of more glory than Moses, by just so much as the builder of the house has more honor than the house. Okay? So the builder of the house has more honor than the house itself. It's like I've said before. You don't look at the house and say, wow, that's a great house, and then you start praising the house. You know architects, right? And you say, that right there is a Lloyd Wright or whatever. That's the architect, and you're like, that is a beautiful house. and you find out who the architect is, and you're like, and you praise the architect. You're like, but it's like, that's a beautiful house, and that came from that guy's mind, and he created it all, and he built it all, and this is the same thing here. He says the builder of the house has much more honor than the house itself. Okay. And he says, for every house is built by someone, of course. The house just doesn't build itself. Somebody builds the house. He says, but the builder of all things is God. Okay? He says, now Moses was faithful in God's house. He was faithful. He did what God wanted him to do as a servant. Okay? I want you to get that. Moses was a servant of God in the house. He says, for a testimony, it says, now Moses was faithful in all his house as a servant for a testimony of those things which were to be spoken later. But Christ, here it is, Jesus Christ was faithful as a son. He was a son over his house. So the son is the builder of the house because he is God, right? The builder of the house, the builder of all things is God, and he's the son over his house. Now, whose house? Who's the house? It says, whose house we are. We are. We are his house. And you got to stop and think about that. Think about that. We are the house of God. Kind of interesting, isn't it? He says, if we hold fast our confidence and the boast of our hope firm until the end. So we are the house of God. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? So we go back. He says, in my Father's house are many dwelling places. And he says to them, if it weren't so, I would have told you. He's telling them, look, I'm telling you the truth. If it wasn't this way, and I have to, and Jesus Christ tells the truth. He says, if it wasn't this way, I would have told you. But this is the way it is. He says, my Father's house are many dwelling places. We go back. What are the dwelling places? It is us. We are the house. Now, think about it. Let's go to Peter. I want to say 1 Peter. Yeah, 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 5. It says, you also, as living stones, are being built up as a spiritual house for a holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. So you, as living stones, okay, we are living stones, and we're being built. We're being built for a dwelling of God. Now think about it. Let's go to, let's see. Let's go to, let's go to 1 Corinthians 3:16. 1 Corinthians 3:16. We get there, and what does it say? Do you not know that you are a temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? Pretty interesting, huh? When you start to think about it, it's starting to narrow it down. Okay, in my Father's house are many dwelling places. If it were not so, I would have told you. And what is the Father's house? It's his household. We are his household. And we are his living stones that he's building. And what's going to happen? Well, he's going to, if you're a believer, then the Spirit of God dwells within you. The Spirit of God dwells within you. Why? Because you are a temple of God. I've always said, and I'll continue saying it again, that God has come inside of us. He is in us, and that we are temples with legs. and that we go out and proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ. We take God to the people. Back in the Old Testament, the temple was in one set place, and the Israelites were supposed to bring people to God. They were supposed to bring the people to the temple. Bring the people to the temple to pray to God. They had an outer court for the Gentiles, inner court for the Jews, and they would bring their sacrifices and they would offer up their prayers. And so that is what they failed at. The Israelites failed at it. They didn't go out and bring people to Jesus, or to God, to the temple. And so they were unable to. They have, when Jesus Christ died, the Spirit of God dwells within every believer, and that we are a temple of God, and that we go out into the world and take God to the people. That is what we are to do. Let's look at another one here. We got 1 Timothy 3:15. So 1 Timothy 3:15. And we'll start narrowing it down here. 3:15. But in case I'm delayed, Paul's saying this, in case I'm delayed, I write so that you will know how one ought to conduct himself in the household of God, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and the support of the truth. So you see that? The household of God, which is the church of the living God. The church is not the building. It's not the building. The church is you and me. The church is us, believers. And so we are the household of God. So let's go back. It says, in my Father's house are many dwelling places. If it were not so, I would have told you. Now, here's something he says that's very interesting. I go and prepare a place for you. Well, again, that place has already been prepared before the foundation of the world. Remember the servants when Christ was giving the parable of the servants that were given talents, and they made investments in the talents, and they came and brought it before the master, and the master says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. Enter into my kingdom, which has been prepared for you before the foundation of the world." And he says that to the second one, and when the third one comes along, and the third one hasn't done anything, made no investments whatsoever, he is cast out into outer darkness where there is wailing and gnashing of teeth. And so he did not get to experience the kingdom that was prepared before the foundation of the world. So you've got this place that was prepared before the foundation of the world. So what is he saying here? He says, I go and prepare a place for you. Now, it's very interesting what we've been studying in Hebrews. Okay? Now, I want you to put your thinking caps on. All right? What we have been studying in Hebrews is that Christ is the better of everything. The covenant, the high priest, he makes a better covenant. The covenant is much better than the Old Testament covenant, the Old Covenant. And why? Because the New Testament, the New Covenant, which Christ is the covenant of grace. Christ came, took on flesh. Okay? Now I want you to follow. Well, let's back up a little bit, because I don't know if people watch on Sundays. So let's explain a little bit about the covenant, just real quick, like it'll take me just a minute or two. So with a covenant, what usually happened is God would come and bring the commandments. He would make a covenant with his people, and he would make a promise, an oath to his people, and he would say, if you follow me and my commandments, then I will be with you, and you will not have to worry about anything. You will have abundance of everything as long as you follow my commandments. Well, the problem is they couldn't follow the commandments. And the thing is, with a covenant, if the covenant, it's a blood covenant, and so if the covenant is broken, then the person that breaks the covenant has to pay with their life in order for the relationship to keep going. Well, the problem is, if we were to sacrifice ourselves, it would still be insufficient because we're sinners. We've broken the covenant. And if they continually give bulls and goats, it doesn't make them clean. It doesn't make them righteous or justified, and make us justified or righteous. The blood of bulls and goats do not make us righteous. We've broken this covenant, and we have no way of getting back into this relationship with God, this reconciliation with God. But God, being rich in his mercy, he has sent his Son to take on flesh, and his Son lives the life that we were supposed to live. In other words, he fulfilled the law. He did every law perfectly. Did every law, okay, that we were supposed to do, that the Israelites were supposed to do, that humankind was supposed to do. He fulfilled it all. Remember, Christ said he did not come to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. And that's what he did. Not only did he live the life that we were supposed to live, which made God very happy with him, then he dies on our behalf. He died the death that we were supposed to die. Okay? He paid our debt price. And it had to be a perfect sacrifice. So you've got an innocent, perfect lamb in Jesus Christ who is sacrificed on our behalf. And his blood has purchased us. He's redeemed us. And not only has he redeemed us, he has cleansed us through the forgiveness of sins. Now we stand before God because of Jesus Christ. We are able to stand before God holy and blameless. Okay? And not only was he sacrificed, but because of his sacrifice and because all the sins of the world were placed on him, on his head, and he has taken away the sins of those who believe. Okay? So those sins have been taken away. Now we can stand before God holy and blameless. Now we have life because he is risen from the grave, because he is worthy to be raised from the grave, because he is innocent and perfect, and he did everything that he was supposed to do, and he died the death that we deserve. And his reward for doing that, his honor for that, was to have everything given to him. All authority, everything was given to him. All authority. Okay? Now, we receive glory as well because we are in Jesus Christ, because of what he's done. Those who trust in Jesus Christ are now in Jesus Christ. All right? And we'll see that here shortly. But I want you to see that what he's doing when Jesus Christ is dying, what he's doing is he is paying a price, and he's taking his blood not to the temple, okay? He's not taking it to the temple made with hands. And this is what we've been talking about in Hebrews on Sunday. What he does is he takes his blood into heaven, where God lives, the sanctuary of God, the picture here on earth of the sanctuary, the tabernacle is a picture of what it is in heaven. And he doesn't go here on earth; he goes into the heavens, and he brings his blood before before God the Father. And God the Father puts him on the throne and proclaims that all things are given to him, that he is a priest, a high priest, according to the order of Melchizedek, and that he is his only begotten Son. And it's proclaimed right then, and all honor and all glory and all majesty is given to him. But see, what he did as a human, right? Because God, Jesus Christ, is 100% God who has taken on 100% man, flesh. So he's 100% God, 100% man, and he's on our behalf has made a way. He's prepared this way for us to enter into the presence of God. To be into the presence of God, in the presence of God, to be reconciled with God. That's what he was doing. When he says, I go to prepare a place for you, that's what he's doing. When he dies and he rises again, he takes away sin. And for those who believe, he pays the price. He cleanses so that we are able to now have this reconciliation with God the Father. Okay? I know this is it may be hard for you to understand. But I'm trying to explain it in such a way that you do understand it. And hopefully that by the grace of God that you are understanding it. But Christ has made this way. He has prepared this way for us to be able to be in the presence of God, the Father. Okay? And he says, if I go and prepare a place for you, he says, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. Wow. You think about that. You think about that. All my life, I thought that the idea is to get into heaven. Got to get into heaven, right? That God, that Christ has prepared a place for me in heaven, and I want to get to that. And so I've got to believe in Jesus, and I've got to follow him and trust him. And so in order for me to get into heaven. But I want you to see that that's not what he's talking about. He's not talking about, I go and prepare a place for you, and I will come again and receive you to heaven. Okay? He's not saying that. He's saying, if I go and prepare a place for you, if I make this way for you to be reconciled with God, he's saying, when that happens, I'm going to come back. I'm going to come again and receive you to myself. I'm going to receive you to myself, so that where I am, there you may be also. All right? I want you to get that. He's not saying, because, think about it. Jesus comes down from heaven, right? And it's the second coming. And Jesus comes down from heaven, and those who are here on earth, are changed in the twinkling of an eye, and we meet him halfway in the sky, and then we come down to earth. Well, wait a minute. What about that heaven thing that I was talking about? Aren't we supposed to be able to go to heaven? Don't we have a mansion there in heaven? See, that's not what he's saying. He's not talking about your mansion in heaven. He's not this room in heaven, this empty room that my wife felt so secluded from Jesus, being in an empty, huge building. It's not about that. What he's saying is, if I go and prepare this place for you, in other words, if I open this door, I get this door opened up for you to be able to be reconciled with God, He says, I will come again and receive you to myself. Myself. That where I am, there you will be also. Now, let's turn to Ephesians 3:16. We've studied Ephesians, but I want you to see this with new eyes, okay? With eyes that maybe it'll help you understand this a little bit more. And chapter 3 of Ephesians, verse 16 through 19, it says that let's jump up. He says in verse 13, therefore I ask you, do not lose heart at my tribulations on your behalf, for they are your glory. For this reason I bow the knees before the Father. So this is why Paul bows the knees before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth derives its name, that he would grant you, according to the riches of his glory, to be strengthened with power through his Spirit in the inner man. Okay, you got that? Through his Spirit in the inner man, so that Christ may dwell. Here we are. We got the Spirit dwelling in you, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. So now we have Christ dwelling in you. And he says, and that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth, the length, and the height, and the depth, and to know the love of Christ, which surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled up to all the fullness of God. Whoa. You think about that. Think about what we just read. Okay? You see the Spirit, you see Christ, and you see God the Father. And they're all dwelling inside of you, believer. They all dwell inside of you. This is what I keep telling you about the fullness of God. That the fullness of God is dwelling inside of you. It's not just the Spirit. You've got the Spirit, you've got the Spirit of Christ, then you got the Spirit of God. Then they're all three one, and they all dwell inside of you. So what he's saying here is that that you may be filled up to the fullness of God. Okay, now let's look at another one. Hebrews 3:2. Well, I think we've gone through that, but let's go back to it real quick. Hebrews 3:2. He was faithful to him who appointed him, as Moses also was in his house, for he was been counted worthy of more than the glory of Moses, by just so much as the builder of the house has more honor than the house. For every house is built by someone, but the builder of all things is God. Now Moses was faithful in all his house as a servant for a testimony of those things which were to be spoken later. But Christ was faithful as a son over his house, at whose house we are. So Christ is living in us. It says here, therefore, just as the Holy Spirit says, today if you hear his voice, do not harden when they provoked me. He says, the Spirit of God comes and dwells within you. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 3:16. Oh, we've already gone through that. Okay. And so, again, you are a temple of God. You are, we've explained that you are a temple of God and that God dwells within you. We see here, we'll jump over to in John 14, verses, let's go to 16. So 14:16, I will ask the Father, and he will give you another helper, that he may be with you forever. That is the Spirit of truth. And he says, whom the world cannot receive because it does not see him or know him, but you know him because he abides with you. Okay, he abides with you and will be in you. I will not leave you as orphans. I will come to you. He says, after a little while, the world will no longer see me, but you will see me because I live. You will also live. In that day you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. Okay, so what he's saying here is that if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself. Receive you to myself. That where I am, there you may be also. Remember what he said in Matthew 18? Go to Matthew 28. It was the Great Commission, right? Great Commission. All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I commanded you, and lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. This is Jesus Christ telling his disciples that I am with you always. I am always with you. Why? Because the Spirit of Jesus Christ, the Spirit and God the Father dwell within you. All the fullness of God dwelt within Jesus Christ, and all the fullness of God dwells within you. Remember what I said before. God's name, when he proclaims his name, it's compassion. The Lord God, slow to anger, compassionate, kind, merciful, faithful, forgiving of sins. All that is in you. That is the fruits of the Spirit. That is the fruit that's in you, that's coming out of you. Compassion, forgiving, all of this stuff, okay? All of who God is dwelling inside of you. Look at, let's go to Romans real quick. Romans chapter 5, I think. No, I think it's 8 and verse 9. Yeah, 8 and verse 9. It says here, however, you are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit. If indeed the Spirit of God dwells in you. There it is. Spirit of God dwelling in you. But if anyone does not have the Spirit of Christ, he does not belong to him. Wait, the Spirit of God dwells within you. And then it goes on to say the Spirit of Christ dwelling within you. If Christ is in you, verse 10, though the body is dead because of sin, yet the Spirit is alive because of righteousness. But if the Spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead dwells in you, see, we see this interchangeably here. What's going on? Christ and the Spirit dwelling within you. The Spirit of God dwelling within you. The Spirit of Christ dwelling within you. The Spirit, they're all one. Okay? They are 3 in 1. They're not just, it's not what they call modalism, where God is just one, and then, he is God the Father, and then he stops being God the Father and becomes God the Son. He stops being God the Son and becomes God the Spirit. It's not like that. It's not a modalism. It's not, different models. But what you have here is they are three persons in one being, one essence. And so when the Spirit of God is dwelling within you, you have Christ dwelling within you. You have God the Father dwelling within you. And they say this over and over again. It's used interchangeably. Now he says, if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. Now, we're going to stop there, but let me finish here, and we didn't get very far. He says, if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. Now remember, people, I'm not looking for heaven. I'm not looking for heaven. I want to be in the presence of God. It's heaven is nothing. If God's not in heaven, heaven's nothing. Okay, heaven is not worth anything. But I'm telling you, I want to be you, believer, should want to be in the presence of God. This is heaven. That's heaven. To be in the presence of God is heaven. It's not, it is some place. There is a physical heaven, okay? But what I'm telling you is that is not what we are striving for. We are not striving for this place. We are striving for this person. We want to be one with God. And here's the beauty of it. It doesn't happen when he comes back. It doesn't happen when he comes back. Now we've got God. Now we're in the presence of God. Okay? No, it doesn't happen that way. It doesn't happen when I die. Now I'm in the presence of God. Okay? Yes, when you die, you are in the presence of God. When he comes back, yes, you are in the presence of God. But it doesn't start there. It doesn't start there. It starts with believing. It starts with believing. Once you believe, and it doesn't come at the second coming, it doesn't come at your death, although you are in the presence of God then, but it starts when you believe, when you trust in him. He immediately comes and lives inside of you. You have the presence of God dwelling within you. And that is what he's explaining to us. He has made this way. He is preparing this way. He's telling his disciples, I am going out and I'm going to die a death and I'm going to rise again so that you can have this presence with God. This is the place. This is the dwelling. This is what you want. As a believer, you want God not just beside you, not just walking with you, as Jesus was with his disciples. He says to them, look, it's better that I go. It's better that I do this and go, because what's going to happen is I'm not just going to be able to walk beside you. I'm going to be in you. I'm going to dwell within you. Ezekiel 36, I will take out that heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. I will write my statutes, my law in your heart, and you will follow it. But he's going to give us a new spirit, and he's going to put his spirit within us. That's what he's telling them. He says, look, I am going to prepare this way for you. And that to me is more important than heaven. That I want the presence of God. I love the presence of God. I love that he is with me. That's what I want, and that's what every believer should want. And that's what every non-believer needs. Okay? So he says here, if I go and prepare this place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. He's with us, believer. He's with you. He's dwelling within you. And one day we will see him face to face, and there will be he will not be hidden from us. We will see him as he sees us. We will know him as he knows us. We will not be looking at him as in a dim mirror. We will see him. But granted, assured, I'm telling you, believer, the fullness of God dwells within you. Father, Son, and Spirit. Okay? And that is where we'll stop. It is, yeah. So, we'll go into the way next week, where Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and that no man comes to the Father but by me, or but through me. So, but Again, I want to reassure you. I want you to know that believer, you have God dwelling in you. He's not beside you. He's not behind you. He's not in front of you. He's in you. Okay? And He loves you. He loves you. He's done all of this for you. Okay? Father in heaven, I thank you for your word. I thank you for what you have taught us. I thank you that you are a God who loves us and that you never leave us alone. You never leave us. You never forsake us. So, Father, I thank you for that. I thank you for your promises. You are laying out promises to your disciples, and those promises are forever. Those promises are for me and for those who believe, who trust in you. And so, Father, I thank you for that. You are gracious. You are mighty, and you are loving. And I love how you love your people. And I love how you get me excited about your word. And I pray that you will get others excited about your word as well. And that we will study it, we will defend it, we will preach it and proclaim it. And Father, again, use us as a people that love you and that want to do your kingdom work. Save those who need to be saved, who need you, Father. Touch their hearts so that they will understand, and open their eyes and their ears so that they hear and see. And so, Father, again, we love you, and we can't do anything without you. And we come to you in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. All right, Sandy Branch, I love you, and come and see us on Sunday. We will not be having services on Sunday. Come here on Facebook Live at 10:55. We will start, and so we won't have service next week, but the following week we are planning to have service. So just to let you know, that's what's going on. Again, Sandy Branch, I do love you, and I pray for you, and I pray that you will continue to be strengthened in the Word of God, and that you go out and proclaim how great He is and what He's done for us. So, again, thank you for being here. We love you. Have a great night.